Good evening. Welcome to the Penfield Parks and Recreation Advisory Board Committee meeting on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. Call the meeting to order. Second item on our agenda is additions or deletions to the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on. Third item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from January 14th. Look good? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we're going to have discussion from Don, basically updating the parks, the Penfield Trails Committee.
Thank you, Bill, and welcome to everybody. So yeah, our last hike was actually just Friday. So one night, we do these guided hikes for the Trails Committee every month. And the February hike, we did an evening hike. We did it Friday night. We try to go as close to the full moon as we can on a weekend. And we actually had a very clear night, 3/4 moon. We could see the planets, some of the stars. We had really nice snow. It was a little windy, but you know, we went to Irene Gosson Nature Preserve, just off 5 Mile Line. So in the woods, it was nice and protected. Turned out to be a really nice hike. We had 6 community hikers and 5 members of the Trails Committee. So we parked at Rothfuss, and one request that I put in on Monday has to do with there's no crosswalk there, and there's no sidewalk really there's a sidewalk on 5 Mile Line, but none to the road. So I actually filed a request Monday morning for a little stub of a sidewalk and a crosswalk for that, and I'll keep track of that. Anyway, so that was really nice. It was a good hike. It turned out well. Our next guided hike is Saturday, March 8th. So the second Saturday of the month is our typical pattern. And we're doing this one outside of Penfield. We're doing this one at Irondequoit Bay Park West, which is in Irondequoit. And coincidentally, that happens to be a shared use, multi-use trail park. I would call that one probably bike optimized. I think that's a term you'll probably hear later. Pedestrian optimized versus bike optimized. Anyway, that's a pretty nice park. We haven't done a guided hike there with the Penfield Trails Committee since I've been a part of it. I don't know if we ever have. So we're looking forward to that. Let's see, what else do we have? Okay, next on there is 1,000 Acre Swamp to Rothfuss Park Trail. So this is something that we initiated from the Trails Committee last year. We talked to the Nature Conservancy. They're the owners of 1,000 Acre Swamp. And anyone who's familiar with it, there's a straight Founders Trail that goes out, and then it ends, connects into the rest of their trails. If you were to follow that Founders Trail straight, it would run to Rothfuss Park. And so we talked to the Nature Conservancy to see if they would be interested in extending that trail. About 99% of the work would actually be by the Nature Conservancy and connect into the backside of Rothfuss. And they're very interested, and they followed up, and they have put together a plan, and they put that out for quotes. The initial quotes were higher than they had budgeted for, so they took a few things out, tailored it down, put it back out. Currently waiting, but they expect the quotes to come in within range. And so should that happen, then they would bring that to the oversight committee, I guess, within the Nature Conservancy's hierarchy, with a plan to construct that extended connector trail in 2026. And Tim, I know we've met with them a couple times. I did reiterate the Parks Department's offer on your behalf.
Yep.
To help wherever is possible.
Agreed.
If that might help alleviate some of their costs. So that's progressing, and she seemed pretty optimistic that for 2026 that might just happen. Update on the passport. So that's a little pamphlet. Many of the parks have little rubbing posts, and you can go around and mark that you've been in those trails. That pamphlet was a little out of date, so last year the Trails Committee canvassed all the parks and put together a comprehensive list of changes And so those have been presented through Joel, through the liaison to the Trails Committee. So, at the next printing, you should have the information to do that.
Yep, and I can
And-
provide an update too, because I know a lot of the things that were done from the Trails Committee side of things is now on the Rec Department side. So we are currently working with Matt Prinzing from the Engineering and Planning Department to update all of our trail maps.
Right.
In the passport, I met with him about a week ago, and the thought is he's going to take our current maps, do some updates, and the hope would be is to create some specific for the passport, but then some that are a little bit larger, easier to read, to post in all of our kiosks as well. So multiple designs for some of these trails. I know it's not at the top of his list, but I said, work on it, please. And of course, we'd like to get that stuff ready for spring, summer, when we know the trails and parks are a little bit busier. So I'll update the Trails Committee. The thought would be is when he's concluded some of that, bring in some of the Trails Committee to meet and discuss those options.
Perfect. And so that was sort of an initiative in 2024. This year, we're trying to work out some guidance for the kiosks. Most of the parks have a kiosk, and maybe all of them. So then they're all different sizes. And so we want to define, based on size, maybe some core information that would be available on every kiosk. And then where there's room beyond that for organizations such as, Healthy Yards, if they have a particular event that they might want to put something up, or something like Brock, or, whatever. So that's an initiative that the Trails Committee is taking this year.
That's great.
Okay, thank you, Don, for the updates and your guidance along the trails for many members. Next, we'll go to the Penfield Parks update.
Okay,
Shoot over to
just a
Tim.
quick update on what we got going in the parks. It's been a lot of snow removal for us, and in between that, we've been going to a lot of pesticide recertification classes for our licenses. So we've been taking a couple days here and there, full-day classes on getting credits for our pesticide licenses. And then we are also helping out the facilities department paint and clean and oil all the beams in Dolomite Lodge. So some inside work for our crew. And then the Channing Philbrick Park Trail project update. We did have a pre-construction meeting a couple weeks ago. I think we're just waiting on the company's availability for materials and getting all that in, and then we'll come back with a better update next meeting.
Thank you.
We have already closed the trail portion just to get ready for the construction piece where they're bringing in equipment and things like that.
Yep.
So the trail is currently already closed where the bridge starts, and then more information will come out on the website.
Yeah, there's trail closed signs up on our end and on Parrington's end, and it's on the town website showing the section that's actually closed. So you can still travel up Honey Creek Trail, but where the bridge is, about like a couple hundred feet before that, is the trail closed sign.
And what's the estimate of how long it'll be closed for?
They were hoping, depending on when they start, maybe 5 to 6 months ballpark.
This
Could be sooner.
This calendar year, though, is
Yes.
the target, of course?
Yes.
Yeah, the sooner they can get in there, it means the sooner it'll be done, hopefully by late summer,
Yep.
fall.
Back to the pesticide training for a second.
Yes.
The spotted lanternflies, we've talked about them a lot. There were some Tree of Heaven in Sherwood. Remember, we talked about that
Yep.
before, and then I saw the county, I think, put up traps.
Yes.
Do you know anything about
I
that?
haven't heard any, all they did was ask permission if they could put up traps. I haven't heard any information from them on what they've gathered, and no information on that part. They just asked for permission to put up
Okay.
the traps.
Do you know if they're going to do that again this year?
But they usually just reach out whenever, not willy-nilly, but
Well,
willy-nilly.
we should
is the right
remove
word.
it if they're not, if they don't want to do that, we should remove it,
Right.
would be my take.
Is that because we've got a problem there, or are they doing it? in
No,
all
they're
the
just
parks?
monitoring.
Okay.
See if there's any, the traps, they're set up just to see what can, like, percentage-wise goes into those
Oh,
traps.
okay, so it's basically to look for everything that's going through there.
Right.
Okay.
Those are a host tree for
Yes.
them, that's why they target those. That's a
That
particular tree.
You mentioned that before, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, our next item on the agenda, we have a presentation from Adam.
Yep, and I'll introduce Adam for our Shadow Pines property multi-use trail project. I know this project has been discussed for a long time, and just want to thank Adam for all the time and effort. Started coming with our rec master plan for feedback, and just a lot of great community involvement so far. I did want to say before the presentation that Adam will have is really the presentation is for the advisory committee to ask questions, to kind of discuss on your own. I know there's a lot of people from the public and advisory committee members that are seeing this for the first time. Speaking from myself, I've watched the trail project kind of flow and evolve, so it's not all new to me, but I can understand that this is going to be a lot of information presented tonight. So for anybody from the public who has questions, concerns, we're going to spend some time after the meeting where you can meet with Tim, myself, or Adam to directly ask those questions. We're also going to put the presentation maps on the town website, and then the hope would be is we understand, you know, not to make all of these recommendations tonight, but to kind of take all of this information, talk about it. The public can communicate either to the rec department via email or phone, or contact the supervisor's office, but we want to hear that feedback that we'll then send to Adam for updates. But then after this Parks and Rec meeting and the presentation, we want to give the advisory committee time as well to look at that, and then at our March meeting, we would have that discussion again just as a committee to talk about kind of steps moving forward. So any kind of public feedback tonight, send it over to the rec email. If you're here in person, thank you so much for being here, and we can talk to you in person after the meeting. But for the meeting itself, we'll look just for the advisory committee to make comments and questions. So without further ado, again, thank you to Adam for all the time and effort and putting up with working with Tim and I, but it's been a pleasure so far, so excited to see this presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. As Andrew said, yeah, it's been about a year now that we've been working on this, and this presentation is dense, so I'll try to be as crisp and brisk as I can through it. A lot of wonderful ideas packed into it. It is based on the draft plan as it's in development, so it's fairly extensive. You know, it covers some of the original ideas, a lot of the high-level ideas, down to some of the initial recommendations for final alignments. So,
Do you
Here we
consider
go.
this a draft, or is this?
yeah, this is pretty much a draft. There are some things that we need to flesh out, like there won't be any cost-related information this evening. Some of the things towards the end of the presentation, you notice they get a little looser as we welcome feedback and refine the ideas and stuff. So that feedback will help inform refinements and next steps. So yeah, so here we go. So the title, you'll notice it evolved a little bit. It was the Shadow Pines Mountain Bike Trails project, and it's evolved into what's now loosely called the Shared Use Trails project. And that's because the emphasis of it took on more of a holistic stance from being something that was so specifically focused on introducing off-road cycling to Shadow Pines to now really taking a look at the property and what its potential is to offer better trail experiences for everyone. So here we go. All right, so again, my name is Adam, as you know, but for the people that are watching this, I represent Further Trail Services, and Further Trail Services is a company that helps facilitate the development of community-focused, destination-worthy trails. So my background, so I strive to work for the conservation and enjoyment of natural resources and spaces through the sustainable development of enriching trail-based recreation. And I've been doing that as a professional for 8 years now. I'm a former consultant and contractor with the International Mountain Bicycling Association. And IMBA also had a large emphasis on shared use trails, not just mountain biking specific trails. I've done trail projects in 10 different states, and Further was started to bring a lot of that expertise and experience home back to this community in order to develop higher quality facilities for where I happen to live. So, introduction. So, this is how the report kicks off. It's just a little bit of context. So, located in a well-populated suburban setting, Shadow Pines is an important property for regional recreation. The town of Penfield is working to offer diverse, high-quality recreational experiences for the neighboring residents and visitors of Shadow Pines. The town of Penfield commissioned the studies to develop a trails plan that focuses on providing guidance for trail-based infrastructure for off-road cycling trails, but special care, as I was saying earlier, was given to develop a holistic set of recommendations to support the needs of many different user types. This conceptual trail plan outlines the analysis and recommendations for a shared-use network of trails at Shadow Pines. Through the low-impact development of community-focused trails, the ultimate goal is to help make Penfield, New York, a destination-worthy place to visit, recreate, and live. So this is the cover of the report, the pending report. It's as I said, in development, but ultimately the resulting plan will formalize the vision and goals of the project. It'll define the needs and the existing conditions. It'll illustrate the potential for the project. It'll inform decision-making. It'll support approvals of those decisions. And it'll guide permitting, empower fundraising, and a variety of other things in order to help see what we're all working on together become future facilities. So the methodology, how we went through it all, we met with the town, representatives of the town and key stakeholders to gain an understanding of the needs and desires. So those are town needs, but those are also community needs, right? So the town has management goals, but the community also has its needs and desires as they relate to recreation. So there was a review of documents, there was some desktop analysis performed using publicly available data for geospatial analysis. We created custom maps, field work and data collection happened, so there were observations, got out in the field, took those maps, really explored and tried to get a sense of what the property had to offer as it related to the background context as well as things that we heard from the stakeholders in the town. Site visits with stakeholders, including town staff and community leaders, public users. And then the town hosted some community involvement sessions. There was an opportunity to educate the community about the project goals, trail theory, which is really important, as we'll get into tonight a little bit, the planning process and how that works, as well as engage with the community and get their ideas and feedback for things that we were sharing. So we hosted a series of boards, which you see there. Those boards were used to gather preferences for what kind of trails do you like, what sort of experiences are you looking for, and then what do you think that the local trails would benefit from having more of or at all. An online survey was used in order to raise more project awareness, but then also to collect more user data that was combined with the input from the boards in person. So the data collected from the field work with stakeholder input, guided by best practices. It all informed some initial zone-based planning, but then also some initial conceptual alignments that we'll look at tonight. Field work was conducted with those initial loose alignments, went into the field with some kind of desktop concepts, and then tested those to see if those worked in reality. So a lot of what you're seeing, while it is conceptual tonight, it is grounded. We got eyes and boots on the things, and so it's mostly viable. So because it's a conceptual project at this point, there will be a design project to follow this in order to refine some of the ideas to make them fully buildable and biddable. But a lot of stuff has been done in advance already in order to make sure that these are not just loose ideas. They're pretty well grounded. So as those ideas were developed, they were shared around, and so you're seeing things that, while it hasn't been released to the public at large, it has gone through a number of different stakeholder reviews. Folks and I have walked the property together. We've had multiple meetings with the town, and some of the key stakeholders have helped really steer some of these ideas and shape them to what you'll see tonight. So project background. So Located in Monroe County, which is home to approximately 1 million residents, the town of Penfield is the county's 6th largest town. So it's one of the area's fastest growing suburbs. It's estimated at 40,000 residents. It's well populated. It sits close to the metro center of Rochester. So it's got 1,400 acres of open space and parkland, lots of miles of trails, walkways, and sidewalks, but currently there are no natural surface trails that formally allow for shared use access. So it's one of the reasons why mountain bikers were excited about the possibility of trails at Shadow Pines. And it's one of the reasons that we're now taking an even broader look at the potential for it, because with this amount of population around, it's important that the trail system really work well and really maximize the potential for enjoyment in a sustainable way for as many different user groups as possible. So more on the recreation setting. So less than a quarter mile away, we got a middle school and an elementary school. Penfield Schools does own a fleet of mountain bikes, and they have offered mountain biking program as part of their physical education curriculum programming. And if mountain biking specific facilities are implemented ultimately at Shadow Pines, it could be great for programming. So it's just important to kind of remember that that as a highly suburban area close to a couple schools, these facilities really could complement some of the things that the school is doing. So it's just 1.4 miles from Penfield High School, it's 1.8 miles from the community center, and then it's within a 2-mile radius of Irene Gazin, as Don was saying earlier, Rothfuss, and Thousand Acre Swamp, and it sounds like the Nature Conservancy is on board to do some trail connectivity, which is something that I'm going to highlight in just a moment. So planning guidance, we reviewed the following documents. There was a Rothfuss reaching all the way back to 2002. There was a Rothfuss master plan. Within that plan, there was a 15,000 square foot skate and bike park area that was recommended for various types of wheeled play. And currently there's a box rink there now. So that was never built, and it's something that was a recommendation from the previous consultants and recommended and adopted in that plan. So, perhaps a recommendation for something similar might be well-placed in Shadow Pines. So the Town of Penfield Bicycle Facilities Master Plan, it suggests a multi-use path from Scribner Elementary and Bay Trail through Rothfuss, connecting to Veterans Memorial Park. And now conceivably this could connect to Shadow Pines as well. So not only are we looking at the possibility for a trail network within the southern end of Shadow Pines, but now there's more town-wide potential connectivity which could serve a lot of wonderful use. So in the Shadow Pines Conceptual Master Plan, there was community desire expressed for preservation of the site as open space while offering a variety of recreational activities that would be attractive to the community without great disruption of the land. And we're sticking to that. So this plan really attempts to honor that sentiment, and it's been one of the guiding principles for the suggestions that you'll see tonight. A property-wide system of multi-use paths was recommended with 7 points of connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods. So that sentiment of a property-wide multi-use path system, but also that connectivity is really important. A 35-acre mountain biking area of shared use trails was recommended with a range of difficulties that could be designed and installed while also limiting disturbance to the woodlot and steep slopes in the area. And then other amenities within the recommendations included signage for wayfinding, etiquette mapping, ADA and adaptive paths, playground, shelters, picnic tables, and other parking areas. So here's an image of BME's recommendation for that mountain biking area. It's the one that's highlighted in green on the western side of the property, just to refresh it. So planning guidance was continued sought from the New York State Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan, or SCORP. Monroe County received a need for bicycle facilities score of 7 out of 10, 10 being the highest need. So you can see Monroe County's in that orange color as it relates to the more green counties around it, which are expressing lower need. So for recreation purposes, on and off-road biking, including mountain biking, was the 4th most popular activity in the 2018 study, with 49.3% of total respondents participating. Natural service trails can be developed at a low cost with minor adverse impacts to the environment. So at a state level, just looking for guidance in terms of what need has been expressed and recorded, and then also that could relate to potential funding sources for support of the development of shadow pines.
Adam, what does natural surface mean exactly?
So
is that just dirt, or is that like crushed stone?
Yeah,
asphalt?
generally it's native soil or imported soil, but it could be imported stone as well. It just depends on the definition of, I think, who's permitting and who's funding. So, but generally it's natural surface, even if it's been hardened or stabilized, but not paved.
Not paved.
So paved surfaces like asphalt and concrete generally fall well outside of the natural surface trails definition, but crushed stone like aggregate trails and stone dust trails could fall within natural surface trails depending on who's calling them that. So generally it's like this continuum. Soil-based trails are definitely natural surface trails. Native stone used for armoring or other sorts of things still is within that definition. When you start to getting into stabilizing and augmenting with imported materials, you know,
Gray.
it's who's defining it at that point. So,
Okay.
but generally,
I get it.
yes, if it's a looser surface, it's generally still considered natural surface. So local success in 2014, I guess it was 2019, Monroe County started a 36-month trial for shared use trails. It was a pilot program that was conducted in Tryon Park and Bay Park West. And this coincided with some new access which the county had granted for shared use cycling as it related to an update to their master plan for the Ellison Park system. The study included the monitoring of user safety and environmental sustainability and the quality of trail experiences for users. During the study, volunteer groups supported with trail construction and maintenance as well as park cleanup efforts. So after the monitoring and evaluation period, it was EDR were the consultants that worked on it. The data that was collected did not indicate any significant adverse environmental impacts. The shared use trails had an overall positive impact on the two parks, and the shared use trail, and they determined that shared use trails can provide a sustainable balance of healthy outdoor activities and environmental conservation. Another local case study is a project that I have been fortunate enough to work on. It's the Hickory Ridge Preserve down in Naples, New York, and if anybody wants to come down for a hike, I'd love to show you around. This is a mountain bike optimized shared use trail network. It's managed by the Nature Conservancy, and this is a first for them. And the reason why it's a nationally recognized model for modern sustainable shared use trails is that this is the first time they've done that, especially in New York State. I think they may have one other instance in Georgia, but this is big for them because as a conservation organization, they had not formally opened up to mountain bike optimized trails. I think, Don, you had mentioned that Bay Park West is more mountain bike optimized. It certainly is. These trails are professionally designed, professionally planned, professionally designed, and professionally constructed. So they go many steps beyond what you'll see at Bay Park West. So Bay Park West is a lot of commitment, good intention, variety of other things. It's volunteer planned, designed, and constructed in conjunction with EDR. But while Bay Park West is environmentally successful, I think Hickory Ridge goes many steps further in showing how a mountain bike optimized trail network can be planned in a very exacting way that everyone really truly finds themselves within the trail network, and it doesn't end up feeling overly bike optimized to certain users, because everyone can find themselves on the segments that they're looking for. So there's a picture here of the Finger Lakes hiking group, and it's very important to me to engage with the community while I'm out there doing construction work and find out how people are receiving the work, and they loved it. So thankfully, it's really great. The Nature Conservancy has overwhelmingly received a lot of positive praise for this trail system, and it has some even more bike optimized options than what Bay Park West has. It's just each segment has its own distinct difficulty level, trail type, narrative, and we'll get into some of that a little bit later. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure when you get there, and each trail has its own specific flavor and nuance to it in terms of how it intends to either support certain users or discourage certain use from certain users. So good high-quality planning and design can
The
do
Hickory
that.
Ridge is significantly larger, right?
It's 550 acres, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's going to be,
But the concepts scale down to what you're
Yeah.
talking about here?
yeah, all of the design ideas and the theory and everything, it all translates. It's just you have a slightly larger canvas there and a slightly different setting. So down there, you have more of, let's call it a side country setting versus a front country setting. It's not quite back country down there, right? But it's more side country.
Okay.
They don't have the population density that we do around here, so they made certain choices, and I think it works really well for the context. So let's see. Stakeholders. I just want to say thank you to everybody as they've been involved so far. Lots of great insight from everyone. Thanks for sharing the awareness of the project and bringing relationships to the table. It's been really great working with everyone so far. So survey results. So as I said before, we collected information from the in-person with the boards. We had 80 respondents in person. The online survey got another 518 responses for almost 600 total, which is a really great amount of data to work with. So I most strongly identify with being considered A, and mountain biking was almost 80%, about 420 participants, and followed by hikers and walkers. So those are the people who express their ideas. And number two, shared use trail system. Most people like around here, as Don said, Bay Park West, but also Dryer Road Park is really popular. Those two systems are both relatively smooth overall, not a lot of rocky content, and rolling contour, single track, and wooded settings.
Would you say those are all mountain bike optimized, that entire list? Or-
No, I wouldn't say they're overly, let's say Trion's more traditional, I would call it, in terms of how it's designed or lack of design, because there's a lot of social trail in Tryon, things that were adopted as part of the system and weren't intentionally designed.
Yep.
Bay Park West was designed kind of from the ground up. Dryer Road Park as well, but it's gone through a lot of iterative evolutions as it's gone through the years, the addition of the jumps and the pump track and all that sort of stuff. Whiting Road is definitely more traditional in terms of its aesthetic.
Yep.
And then Ontario County Park, it could be a proximity thing. Most of the respondents were probably from Monroe County and therefore maybe don't get down to Ontario County Park as much. But Ontario County Park is more of that side country context, and a lot of the trails there are somewhat traditional or primitive in their styling. So, you know, modern mountain bikes, it's kind of a slight tangent here, but modern mountain bikes have evolved a lot over the years, and the preferences are for more flowy types of experiences, especially as newer riders are kind of coming into the fold. So the really rugged, kind of primitive trails are less favored by modern mountain bikes that are a little bit longer and more stable, and they don't turn really tight corners and stuff quite as easily. So some of it's a technology thing, some of it's a cultural thing, some of it's, this is my favorite park because I live next to it kind of thing. But that could also be indicative of where your user base is coming from too, maybe from Victor and Arundequite. Could be East Side people. So the experiences that folks are seeking, number one is physical fitness. So a lot of people are trying to get out there. They're trying to get physically well. Flow, as I was saying, is a popular one. Flow is not just the psychological state of flow, the synchronistic state of being for optimal experience. It's generally relates to a type of riding that's a little bit smoother and more roller coastery. Nature immersion was another big one. You know, people that want to get out there and connect with the natural world, so they're maybe not looking for things that are quite so constructed. And then skills progression was a big one. People are looking for that kind of next level of self-actualization. What can they learn next? What's going to make them feel good about their experience? So in terms of trail types, we had 9 different trail types, I believe, and so people wanted more trails that looked like these particular options. So option 3 is a 3 to 5 foot wide shared use bidirectional rolling contour trail. It's pretty flowy. Option 2 is definitely a flow trail. Flow trails generally, in the modern understanding of mountain biking, they often include things like berms and rollers and jumps, and it's a little more video game-like in a natural setting. So a lot of resorts are coming online offering trails that look like these because it's what people want to ride from a chairlift. And then option 4 is more of a narrow, traditional style trail. It's got alternate rock features on it. Skills progression was one thing that people noted. So, you know, those types of alternate choose-your-own adventure, one person's riding along, they skip it, and the other person's jumping off of it kind of thing. So local trails would benefit from. The number 1 response was a greater diversity of trail types. 2 was opportunities for skills development. 3 was trails for all weather conditions. And 4 was better trailheads and on-trail signage. So project goals. So just to recap the goals, these were inherited from BME during the first round of conceptual planning for Shadow Pines. And they were updated based on some of the input and things that we received during this planning process. So 1 is to offer healthy trail-based recreation experiences for a variety of users. 2 was support mountain biking skills progression for all ability levels. 3 was promote community accessibility and positive site social interaction. And 4 was cultivate community relationships to support trail development and maintenance. So trail planning and design considerations. This is just some sort of higher level theory as it relates to the possible suggestions. So when you consider the land management objectives of the town and the park staff and what they think is appropriate and what they're endeavoring to achieve to implement, and then you consider the needs of the users out there and the experiences and desires that they're looking for. And then what does the terrain itself support? So you kind of put that all into the data hopper, and different trail types start to emerge in order to satisfy the desires of people. And so for those recommendations, we've got a variety of 6 different trail types here. 1 is simply paved pathways. So there is a network of existing cart paths at Shadow Pines now, and some people love them, and they serve some people very well, which is great. The non-natural surface, the hardened paved surfaces, they're resilient to traffic, they shed water really well, and so that's one of the types of trails that we're recommending keeping in place within measure. And then 2 is more of an aggregate stone dust or crushed stone type of trail. So that would be similar in width to the existing cart pathways, but it would be more of a looser stone-based thing, either something that's maybe even a little more rustic than the canal path. Then the 3rd type of trail, the TRD, and you'll see these acronyms, they're not quite acronyms, but the codes like PTH and TRD and MBO. So those will be on the concept maps in the back of the room. So as you're looking at the different trail alignments, you can see those codes, and those codes will tell you what the intended trail type is for that particular location. And with that is corresponding aesthetic, guidelines for construction in terms of width and grades, and then that also comes with, targeted user types and experience goals. So 3 is a shared use bike optimized style of trail. Don was talking about something like at Bay Park West, and it could be that, but mountain bike optimized doesn't mean that it necessarily has jumps and things in it. In most cases, a shared use bike optimized trail should not have that sort of stuff in it, because it's not really shared at that point. It's overtly optimized for one particular user group. So you really, as a hiker myself, I don't really want to hike rollers and berms and that sort of stuff. There are ways to optimize a trail for a mountain bike, including managing mountain momentum well, good sight lines, maybe some rock texture. There are things that don't feel particularly foreign to a pedestrian user that a mountain bike user would want, that aren't always considered best practice recommendations when it comes down to a mountain bike optimized trail. So in that case, then gravity-oriented trails might be a better fit for those types of features. Gravity trails are one-way directional, downhill-only trails. They come in a couple different flavors. You can have flowier ones, as I was talking about before, which is a little more roller coastery, or you could have a gravity tech trail, and a tech trail would be more drops, rock gardens, texture, a different kind of more rugged experience. So there are also trail class ratings. The U.S. Forest Service has a grade of different trail classes, and for Shadow Pines, we're recommending classes 2, 3, and sort of somewhere in the 4, 5. So 1 is the most minimally developed. It would be like a herding path, deer path, where lots of trip hazards, and it's fairly non-existent. You can make it out. Really wonderful for sort of a backcountry setting if you're looking to truly feel way out there, but as we said, this front country context, it's really not that appropriate. 2 is more moderately developed. It could be somewhere from a 2 to 4 foot treadway, but maybe obstacles are common or they're not that common. Here we don't have real rocky soil, so you really wouldn't see a lot of obstacles in the treadway. And route identification signage is on the limited side. You don't really want it to be blazed everywhere heavily. It's more of a subtle kind of way of getting back into the woods. So, narrower treadway, more enveloped by nature kind of feel to it. So 3 is more developed. You start to get into maybe more 3 to 5 foot wide type trail treadways, and then as you go a little further on, 4, 5 can be imported materials and that sort of stuff. Difficulty ratings, so we're proposing 3 different levels of ratings. These aren't certainly the only ratings out there. Easier is a green rating. It would be the easiest we're recommending here. It's 5% grades or less. It deals with maximum trail grades of around 15% or less. Obstacles are really uncommon, if at all. And then, so it's really just trying to determine what's appropriate based on the difficulty level. And so recommendations for construction and experience they're gonna relate to these particular levels. So conditions assessment. So again, getting out there in the field, taking the GIS data, taking a head full of wishes, wants, and desires, and really looking at the terrain. This was 113 acres approximately of the south end that we're focusing on, and the primary considerations included prior land development, environmental considerations, soil analysis, the existing cart paths, the existing mode paths, and then what are the potential points of interest out there. So as a landscape that has a lot of indications of prior development, notably the golf course, but also the former quarry activity. It was owned by Dolomite at one point in time. Most folks here probably know that. But as the quarry expanded its operations, it was originally a buffer for blasting, and then it expanded into some overburden transport across Wayland Road. So the big plateau that's up above the creek, that is all overburden from the quarry across the road. So it's a cool formation, but it's basically a giant dumped pile. So yeah, it's grown over now, but if you look at that slope, the sort of escarpment that goes down to the creek, that's all dump. And a local Penfield resident that worked for the Dolomite Company when he was young gave me a lot of historical background about the practices and how that poor land was treated. So yeah. In 1985, the Odenbachs dramatically transformed the landscape again. They turned it into a golf course through land clearing, regrading, replanting, and the installation of infrastructure such as bridges, cart paths. It then became known as Shadow Pines. So environmentally, it's flatter, it's open and cleared to the north and east. In the middle is the plateau that I suggested. It's got rolling contours. That's in the southern and the center and the southern area. There's some tree stands, so it's not all stripped. There are some very nice mature trees out there, and it has a nice park-like kind of feel to it. There are some steeper forested areas towards the south and southwestern edges of the property, and some really beautiful trees back in there. Some nice hemlocks and really wonderful slopes to stand on and be immersed in more of that sort of side country feel in a highly suburban context. So environmentally, the terrain has some hydrologic challenges. It's due to saturated soils. It's partially due to not that many trees out there, but the soil can kind of bloat and it gets wet. This is one of the mode path alignments that's showing a little bit of strain as people are using it. It gets muddy pretty quickly. And that's just because those flatter areas where alignments are mowed through, they just don't have any slope to drain out. They're challenging to support during delicate weather conditions. So the lack of tree canopy exposes the terrain to wind and sun and rain, and it likely contributes to some erosion issues. The former fairways and rough have been selectively allowed to regrow naturally as a maintenance plan, which is great. It's helping give that more preserve-like feel to the landscape, but it also presents challenges with invasive species. So soil analysis. So it's predominantly very fine sandy loam. I'm not sure how everyone is familiar with soil. There's a triad. It's sand, silt, and clay makes up your mineral earth particles of it. And so this is a fine sandy loam hybrid. That's mostly found in the steeper slopes, and then it's more of a silt loam in the lower angle slopes. The soils are considered generally to be well drained. There's only a slight hazard of erosion at grades up to 8%. And then as you climb up towards 55, you have a moderate chance for erosion. So these are the 4 primary types of soil that are found in the soil analysis. And then, so the plateau, if you look at the soil analysis, it's all overburden, and it's refuse substratum is what they call it.
Good word for me.
Yeah, so Arkport Dunkirk colony, that's found in the steeper slopes of the EPODs, and that's coincidentally it's the same identical soil profile as the native steep slopes of Irondequoit Bay Park West. So in terms of development potential, the EDR's assessment of that project, it came out as recommended as sustainable, based on their GIS analysis. And so what they did during their analysis is they had points along the trail and they went out and monitored those exact points over time. So it's encouraging for potential development within those slopes. So the cart paths, it's an intermittent network of former cart paths. They're being used as trails currently. Here's an example of one of the trails somewhat abruptly ending. They're popular now, and they're seeing a lot of use, which is wonderful. It's good to get people out. They are hardened surfaces or improved surfaces, so it's great for when conditions are delicate to be able to walk those. They were designed for golf carts and single direction use, and like I said, some of them kind of abruptly end, and that creates network issues in terms of wayfinding. If you don't know the property, it's kind of like walking a maze. This path runs out and that path runs out, and you're not quite sure what the way through is with a continuous surface. So they weren't really designed to support pedestrian and cycling use, and there are some safety hazards that are associated with it. So here's a shot of the bridge down on the creek, and that's a 35% grade that comes into kind of a kinked approach to the bridge. The paved surfaces, they increase travel speeds, and with increased travel speeds and challenging alignments like this one, it's not particularly safe for people. I mean, they can be slippery. Sight lines limit the visibility at times, so just above this particular photo, there's a 180-degree hairpin where you're coming down a 22% grade into that blind corner. So, yeah, they weren't really designed to support the uses that they're currently seeing. And they also don't really showcase the beauty of the property. So, there are a lot of really wonderful points of interest that I'll get into, and they don't take everyone where they want to go. They were meant to service the holes and access the tees and stuff, and they fall a little bit short of sitting on the land in a way that's really traditionally sustainable and also showcases all the view sheds and different points of interest.
Adam, in that
Yeah.
picture, what is the direction this one for the cart path was?
I don't know.
That is heading north.
North?
Yeah, it's heading north,
You're going
but
up.
which
But, yeah, but the
direction
carts would go
you were meant to climb? it.
Across the bridge and then up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured as much, because you
That's what I
probably
kinda
wouldn't
thought.
want a runaway cart
down.
coming down the
Yeah.
opposite direction. Yeah, thanks, guys. And then, over time, as nice as they are right now, they will require costly resurfacing. So the planning decisions that we're making or coming to, right, they're going to inform future maintenance needs. And when it comes time to resurface things, it might be too late to make those choices, right? And it might be perpetuating some challenges that are existing. So here's in magenta, this is the existing cart path network on the south end. And you notice if you try to kind of draw a line with your mind going through the system and trying to get back to where you started, there's one way. Yeah, there's one way to get there. So it's kind of like that maze-like experience that I was suggesting. And there is mode connectivity in there in order to help establish some more pathways and stuff. But again, the challenges there are, I'll get into a little bit later, but it's mostly sustainability challenges, right? Like, these aren't constructed trails, they're mowed-in trails that provide access, which is wonderful when the conditions support it. So the mowed paths, here we are. They go through former fairways. When it's dry, they're great. When it's, supports options for nature viewing and fitness and programming like cross-country races and that sort of stuff, cross-country skiing, and I'm not recommending that you take them away, but that there is a better system that is sort of the backbone of your offerings, as opposed to relying so heavily on ones that struggle to support traffic at times. So they become saturated, they drain poorly, and then sometimes they go what's called fall line. Fall line is where it goes straight up the prevailing grade. It's generally unadvisable because over time erosion just opens it up. So with enough traffic, you'll strip the grass off of it, and then you end up getting an eroded rut. So points of interest, as I said, there are a lot of them in the system, and some that are pretty good now. So they're fairly modest, but showcased the right way. I think Shadow Pines could really shine, and the Little Cascade is one really good example of that. Perhaps with some work, it could become an even more interesting water feature for the brook. But there are mature woods, there are the bridges to cross. The brook itself is really nice. There's the bluff view above the brook, and there are meadow-like fields, like I said, for nature viewing and stuff. And we call them Easter eggs, things to help bait people through the trail system, help inspire them to go to a destination, and things that people can kind of develop relationships with, areas where people are going to take photos for social media, areas where people could sit and congregate and really enjoy a curated spot. And the trail system could help get people around to those types of places. So trail recommendations, we're getting close. The trail recommendations here are for a thoughtful and intimate trail system that maximizes opportunities for visitors to engage with the preserve-like landscape. So it's multiple interconnected trails. You'll see the formation of small loops, and users really prefer those. So rather than segments that abruptly end, you can kind of come back to a hub and cluster-like configuration with wayfinding signage, and those users can then sort of build their experiences for, I think I want to try this loop, and then add this one on, and that sort of thing. Most of the recommended trails are shared use, either pathway or traditional in style predominantly. And then there are a portion of the trail network that are specifically, they're either bike optimized or they're bike specific. And that has to do with supporting different types of experiences. The trail system is designed to be exploratory, engaging, and as I said, better showcase the potential beauty of the terrain and to bring visitors to key viewpoints and destinations like the points of interest I mentioned. So zone-based planning. When you're getting into talking about trail alignments, generally you start with zones first. And the benefit of zones is that it helps designate areas based on, again, land manager desire, stakeholder preferences and needs, and then what does the terrain support. So that got us to a point of being able to recommend 3 distinct planning zones. One we're calling the gateway zone, 2 is nature, and 3 is bike park. And that essentially looks like this. So gateway this is the southern end of Shadow Pines along Wayland Road. The white area is the gateway area. This is the sort of all-persons area. This is your existing paved pathways. This is stone dust, wider pathways, sort of heavier on the trail end of the spectrum, but more fitting perhaps with the preserve-like aesthetic that people are yearning for. The green area to the west and south, that's the nature zone. It could be a really wonderful buffer for both neighboring properties, but as well as really good opportunities for reforestation, native species planting, that sort of stuff. And then in the middle, on the overburdened plateau, so can we call it the overburden plateau? We've got the bike park on the shoulder of it, and then towards Wayland Road. So that's sort of bisected into 2 smaller zones in the center of the park. So you go from kind of a developed in the middle to a less developed in terms of meadows and wider pathways to the nature zone, which would be much lighter touch in terms of trail development, narrow, more traditional style hiking primary trail.
Okay. Adam, where did you say the Dolomite dump was on there?
So you see I see where bike park and bike park are, and you've got Gateway in the middle there. So that whole plateau with the escarpment slope that goes down to the creek down below, allegedly that's the overburden dumping site from across the street. So, and when you do this soil analysis, that whole upper plateau area comes back as tagged that refuse substratum. So the gateway zone. So here's an example. This is at Hickory Ridge, this photo. That is imported stone from north of 5 and 20. It's a crushed limestone that was used to cap the trail construction down there. And this is a preserve, right? So this is the Hickory Ridge Preserve down in Naples. And this is the gateway trail that was created there to access the majority of the trail system. And what it does is it takes you from that developed context of sort of the constructed world into the trails, and then as you go deeper into the trail network, the trails get more and more primitive as you get further out from the trailhead. So the gateway zone, it focuses on offering property users with high-quality pathways and connectivity. Gateway trails are shared use and inviting for all skill and fitness levels, and they serve as the backbone of the system. Aesthetically and functionally, they create connections to both the developed world and the natural world. So again, that's the gateway area. It helps bring people in, and it helps get them to the more curated experiences that they're looking for, whether it be in the nature zone or more of the bike park zone. So the nature zone is a 32-acre area. It's shared use, and it offers more of those primitive experiences and encourages users to explore and immerse themselves in the natural world. So this would be the steeper slopes, the wooded areas, perhaps areas that are replanted and reforested. As I mentioned, the nature zone, it's the buffer area for the neighboring residences, and it's just where I think people are really going to kind of get to breathe a little deeper and disconnect. So that's, again, it's around the outside. So the bike park zone, this is a 9-acre area. So the original consultants recommended a 30-acre area. We've reduced it down to 9 because it seems like that's sufficient. This bike park zone seeks to offer cycling-specific experiences for skills development, fitness, and play. It's very unique to the greater Rochester area, and it's more of a constructed environment, but it inspires riders to get active in athletic ways, and it'll really support community programming extremely well. So whether it's physical fitness or whether it's jump jams or other types of competitions or skills development training, that kind of stuff, it's definitely heavy on the play and fitness end of the spectrum versus the nature end of the spectrum. So this is an example. So now we're getting into looking at trail alignments. So this noodle bowl of squiggles here is some initial concept alignments. Like I said, a lot of these have been ground truthed and vetted for viability. As you look at the green lines, those are your pathway type gateway experience trails. And you'll notice, as I was suggesting before, there is this smaller loop connectivity structure to it where all of the little purple dots in there, those purple dots indicate the hub and cluster structure of the trail system. So when you get to, say, hub A, which would be the trailhead, and then you follow that green line north and to the west and take that around to B. Everybody kind of tracking? So B would be your first hub, and then you'd have a wayfinding map there. And there'd be a little small map that would tell you where you are and help you make a choice. And when you get there, you have 3 choices of where to go, and they all lead to somewhere pretty practical, right? So if you follow the green one, it takes you to C. If you follow the blue one, it takes you to C. So you're never really particularly lost, and then you can double back on the one that you haven't done there to get back to B and then back to the car, or you can kind of continue on. So it offers a lot of flexibility in terms of the experience you might be seeking that particular day, also the duration of how far you want to go. The nice thing about systems with 4-way intersections is you don't really have to double back on any of the trails that you came in on. So you come in on one, you go out on the second, you come in on the third, you go out on the fourth. So 4-way hubs make a lot of sense in that you can treat them as sort of social hubs, informational hubs, If you want to promote interpretive ideas, there are great places for doing stuff like that, or socializing people to rules of the trail. You can include that sort of stuff with your wayfinding signage. So as you go around essentially the property, you've got hub A, B, C, D, and then E over towards the eastern side of the trailhead. So those would be really wonderful places for that informational signage. And you could choose how much or how little wayfinding signage you want to include with a system like this. But in general, the large idea is you've got your gateway trails that are your lower level of difficulty in green. As you get back into the nature zone, you've got your shared use trails that are more hiking, traditional inspired. They're narrower, they're soil-based in the steeper slopes and in the trees. And then in the center of the southern end, you've got this bike park configuration, and I'll get a little bit more into that. So I can talk to at the back of the room a little bit later more about what each of the individual trail segments. So each one kind of has a segment number, it has a designation for a trail type that goes with it, and there's a difficulty rating, which is indicated by the color. So all of this starts to sculpt the purpose of the trail, who it's for, what they should be able to expect from it. And I can speak on a sort of segment by segment, segment level to those things. And all of that in the report is broken down in a much more granular way, but I'll spare everybody going through every one of them tonight. So, but this is the matrix of trail recommendations. And like I said, there it is. So in total, so currently there's a 2.3 mile of existing system in the south end of cart paths. Removals, we're suggesting to remove 1.3 of those miles. That would leave a balance of 0.8 miles of the existing cart paths. And then you'd be introducing a new or resurfaced system of trails at 4.67 miles. So it shouldn't say resurfaced cart paths, it should say trails. The recommended total system is 5.47 miles. This includes those retained ones. So net gain over the existing system that's in there is 3.2 miles. And it's a diverse system of a lot of different trail types and surfaces, widths, and environs. So connectivity. So following the lead of the previous planning documents and best practices, given the connectivity to the surrounding areas, the neighborhoods, the schools, and other natural spaces, connectivity to and through Shadow Pines is an important aspect of the project. Shared use trail connectivity is recommended for all users. And then reforestation and native plantings, I've talked about this in the project. It's good for sustainability. It enhances that preserve-like setting. It protects the trails. It creates those visual buffers. It's just good all around. I mean, you've got something that's park-like now, and it could be more preserve-like with some really tasteful plantings, and that ecosystem of trails and vegetation and everything, and users could be a really nice balanced landscape. So supporting infrastructure, we're recommending a new trailhead, and that trailhead, it's formal access with auxiliary parking that's adjacent to it. It would be specifically for the south end of Shadow Pines, and I'll get back to the map in a second and show where that recommendation is. It's a communal gathering space for information and socialization, as I was suggesting before, and it should really emphasize and enhance the shared use trail system experience. So would have parking. It would be accessible from Wayland, maybe about 45 cars or so. That could be reevaluated as the project evolves or as need evolves. And I'd recommend doing plantings around that new parking area. It would create screening. It would create that sense of really going into that preserve-like space. So where it is now, there's some trees there, which are great, but I think it could use more. And then other amenities such as restrooms and drinking water. It'd be nice if they were there, but they are expensive, so they can be found north of Clark Road. So phasing recommendations. So you can see the parking area in there off of Wayland. So A would again be the trailhead, and then that small blue bike park area would be the pump track. So the phasing priorities to promote better connectivity through the south end of Shadow Pines. That's kind of priority 1 for phase 1. Offer shared use access and promote a culture of sharing and respect. Increase pathway safety by realigning steep and blind sections of existing paths. So safety is a big one. Resurfacing and new paths with stone aggregate construction for permeable all weather. So if you resurfaced certain sections of the existing system, it would help actually slow down user traffic because of the looser stone and more primitive landscape. You know, as I talked about, the paved surfaces really accelerate speed. And then removal or renaturalization of certain sections of cart path. Better highlight the beauty and points of interest. Begin the reforestation and native species planting. This is all within phase 1. Offer new parking in the south end and that new trailhead. So phase 2, this is what phase 2 would look like. So I'll go back to the map on phase 1 for a second, just to highlight the fact that it's really all those green alignments. So when we looked at the big tangle, so this is not bike park, this is not nature zone, this is that gateway zone primarily. It overlaps into the nature zone along the creek there, and up into the bike park at the top of the plateau. But it's pretty much establishing that base connectivity. It's sort of detangling the initial cart path, the existing cart path system, and trying to put in those trails for all, baseline, high-quality connectivity for your trail network. And then 2 gets into adding in those nature zone types of experiences. It gets people back into the woods a little bit deeper. It starts to create more of those small loops for building your own adventure. So I'll jump back real quick. So there's 1, and then we're going to eventually get to the full picture. But so 2 would be to promote more sustainable access to those view sheds and the wooded spaces, offer more options for connectivity, promote more shared use culture on natural surface trails, continue with that reforestation and native species planting, creation of one-way gravity tech trail. So this is the first time you're seeing a one-way bike-specific trail, but we think we have a pretty good location in order to be able to offer somebody a really curated experience in that way, and then install wayfinding, and interpretive signage. All right, 3 is the bike park one. So you've got to the sort of northeast, right, by the parking area, let's call it, you've got a pump track adjacent to the trailhead. And the pump track is a closed circuit undulating network of kind of compact trail. It's kind of like a noodle bowl that can be used for fun and fitness, socialization. It's a really great, I just forwarded Andrew an article, if anybody cares to read it, about the benefits of pump tracks in communities and how healthy they are for helping entice new and younger riders into the sport and culture and all the benefits that it has.
How big is that? It's hard to, you said 9 acres for the combined,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's 1,300 square feet. So somebody came up with a number the other day.
I think we talked like a third of an acre.
Yeah, a third of an acre or so.
Yeah, it was a third of an acre.
13,000 square feet, but third of an acre, yeah.
Yeah, great, thank you. And then that left side of the plateau has 2 gravity runs that could be, as you saw in that picture, it could be a more of a solid surface thing with some pre-engineered features like jumps or that sort of stuff in order to create a really repeatable, consistent experience for people. So when you're learning some of these skills, it's really important to have things be predictable and be correct. So if you're trying to launch yourself into the air, it's really a good practice to build them right so that people aren't repeatedly hurting themselves on something that isn't right. So this type of work takes a highly specialized consultant and contractor to work, and this would be where you definitely need more design work going into it in order to get site-specific recommendations, very exacting in order to create something that is both safe and really good. This is something that's pretty unique to the area, but something that I've seen in many other communities have a really positive impact on the experiences and lives of the people that enjoy and use them. So the orange dots around the top would be fitness, like not fitness, but skills feature stations. So if you were navigating the trails at the top there would be these individual play features, which I meant to include an image of one, but it'll be in the report ultimately.
Hey, Adam?
Yeah.
On those pictures, the gray thing that comes down from the Clark House, is that the existing cart paths that be kept?
Yes, those are the existing, great question. So those are the existing cart paths that be kept. The really fine dashed line that you see extending out from it in many instances, those are the ones that are being suggested for removal and restoration. So sort of a renaturalization of the landscape.
Adam, what kind of buffering is on the nature part of the trails that are going? Because obviously we have houses that back up to it.
Yeah.
It's hard to see scale-wise how far it is away from.
No, great question. Yeah, we've got a 100-foot buffer established. It's not delineated here specifically, but in the scale on the maps in the back, you can see that we've established a 100-foot buffer to the property line, which is the best practice for trail development. I mean, you can go as tight as 50 or even closer depending on the context, but given that it is a highly suburban neighborhood, we're erring on the side of a little bit more buffer, which is pretty consistent. So for Monroe County trail development, that was the standard that was always used with residents there where their properties backed up to any potential trail development. All right, so the priorities are to increase opportunities for cycling-specific challenge, fitness and play, the installation of the pump track, the gravity lines, the skills features on the plateau loop, and then create like a final trailhead. So while you're going through the development of the pump track and any tweaks to the parking facilities and that sort of stuff, then really go all out and put in your final trail signage. If you want to do more elaborate kiosk or benches or additional play features or anything like that in order to create a really, nice community welcome space. That would be my advice there. You could put up a temporary kiosk and trailhead, and then really, as you're developing that area, as it's in its entirety, do a more robust trailhead at that point. All right, next steps, we've got feedback and refinement. We've got a design phase to go through to get more nailed down with some of these conceptual ideas. Then there will be permitting, fundraising, there will be the actual construction of it, and then maintenance as we roll into its use. So that's it from me. I realize that was very long, and I think I fell asleep a couple times. I appreciate everyone's interest in this, and I hope you have a lot of good questions for me, because I look forward to discussing it more with everyone. So any questions from the advisory committee at this point?
Blue Trail in the wooded area, nature area, how intrusive is building there's no trail in there today, right?
Yeah.
How intrusive is that?
Yeah, not very. So again, that trail is recommended to be pretty narrow. It'll probably likely be, on average, about 2 feet to 3 feet in construction width, final construction width. It would be small, heavy equipment that would go in and do it, but much in the same way that you would have the grounds of your home developed, and then you would never know where the equipment was or went. It would be that same sort of construction process where best practice would be implemented for the management of any potential environmental impact. Restoration would be thorough and complete, and when that machine leaves, you never knew that a machine was there in the first place.
Okay. How about the parking lot? So there's
Yeah.
currently a maintenance barn with a little lot there, and then you go up the hill a little bit, and there's another parking area here. Are you using that
Well,
in that
the
proposal? I
recommend.
couldn't tell.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the recommendation is to have a lot that's slightly farther away from Wayland Road, both due to road noise as well as trying to give people that more serene-like arrival at the property. So their first impression should be they're slightly back off the road, and then there's more of a developed trailhead area, and it all sort of seems to sync a little bit versus parking way out at the road and then walking back in. So, there could be recommendations for removal of some of that asphalt in order to try to continue to sculpt the environment in a way that feels more preserve-like.
That's right on the bend. That entrance is pretty dangerous. too,
Yeah,
Right, so this
yeah.
shifts it up the road, right?
It shifts it up the road, yeah. And it tries to get to a section of Wayland Road where your sight lines are going to be a little bit longer versus being right on the curve where the
Yeah.
barn comes out there. And that is a little steep and punchy where the barn comes out.
Is that maintenance barn, that's to stick around, or is there any
Yeah,
plans for that?
currently the Penfield players are holding all their equipment in there, so yes, it is an operational barn that is being used by the town right now. So the plan is to keep it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've got a question on the Phase 1,
Yeah.
the Gateway project. Those trails that are going to be built, is that the crushed stone? Would that be throughout the whole entire trail system?
Yeah, that's the recommendation. So for the green trails, I mean, because they're wider and they would likely see more use, those would be, like I said, your all-persons trails. They could be great for folks with adaptive needs. They could be great for strollers. That more hardened but more natural surface, it's stabilized for all-weather use, which was something that we saw in the user input. People were really looking for the ability to get out during shoulder seasons and when times are more delicate. So I think having a network of connectivity that is stabilized like that promotes more use the year round. And then as you get off of those trails, then you have opportunities for doing more natural surface trails and more wooded settings. So generally, soil-based trails fare much better when they're protected by a tree canopy.
Okay.
As perhaps some of the plantings and reforestation comes back, you could do more, there are more opportunities in there for perhaps taking out more asphalt and adding in more alignments, natural surface alignments as the stands that grow up. Any document is a living document, and as things evolve and you reassess, you could take something from here and add a little bit more there kind of thing. And so, but currently, yeah, the backbone, the gateway trails are all recommended either to be the existing paved that they are now, and then perhaps converted to crushed stone
So
later on.
taking advantage of some of the existing
Yeah,
paved areas.
yeah, it would help keep your costs down currently to use some of that stuff.
Just
in
reconnecting them in different places.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
The crushed stone would be very comparable to the north half by the
Right.
new playgrounds and pickleball. The
That's what I
crushed
was
stone,
thinking.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
okay.
it'd be very similar to that.
Yep, and that holds up really well.
Yeah.
It's got good structure to it.
Yeah, yeah, and that, the wonderful thing about those is they can be maintained too. So you can
Yes.
you can scrape them off, you can redust them, you can
Right.
reprofile them if they're having any drainage challenges. So they're very malleable as compared to asphalt, right?
The width is what are you thinking, 3 feet, 4 feet?
I would say probably more in the ballpark of 6, just to
6 feet.
allow for a healthier passing
Make
width.
sure that you have the
Yeah,
two-way traffic?
yeah. So
Okay.
again, we're not trying to encourage, we're trying to discourage trail speed as the use of those trails, or pathways, or whatever you want to call them. But, yeah, more generous than not.
Okay,
Because, yeah.
thank you.
Bob, do you have a question?
Yeah, which of those areas would basically be off limits for walkers?
Only the bike park area would be off limits, and that's because those experiences are so specific. I mean, I don't think you'd want to walk down a jump line.
But in the nature area, you could see walkers down in those trails also? with
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Those trails would be more geared towards walkers. They would be pedestrian primary, if you will. They'd be bike optimized in that they would support safely the use of shared use, meaning that they would have good sight lines. If there was a blind corner, the grade would rise to naturally reduce any rate of speed as you approach that potential encounter, right? But they would be designed in such a way that they really more, they're environmentally sustainable, they're socially sustainable, and you build them once the right way, and they just work better for everybody.
Right.
So
Thanks for
those
clarification,
were-
because
Yeah.
I kept thinking bike optimized is anti-walker.
No, bike optimized is, it's a continuum, as we were saying before. Bike optimized could mean more exclusionary of pedestrians, but bike optimized could also be bike optimized, but pedestrian primary. So the traditional trails that we're recommending are that. They are shared use, and they're designed in such a way to support both user groups. But if I were a cyclist, you would sort of be self-selecting yourself away from those trails and spending more time in the bike park area. And another thing I forgot to mention is that the bike park area is a little bit of a closed circuit. So when you're riding those gravity lines, if you want to repeat it, you go up the climbing trail that goes through the middle of the two gravity trails. And I can show folks this more in the back of the room. But there's only one way out of there. So you're not going back into the gateway trails to then get back up to the top of the gravity trails. And I can clarify that a little bit more. But the nice thing about that design is that it reduces the intermixing of your user groups, and it focuses use and where people want to be.
Yeah, I want to look at the map closer because, that new trail that you added up along the ridge,
Yeah.
that's beautiful, right? That'll be a beautiful view down over
Yeah.
the brook and everything. But you have to get down, and it seems like it goes down by the flow track.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just have to look at the map.
Yeah, we'll take a look together.
Are the lines on the map pretty well defined of where you envision them, or is there going to need to be like a lot of switchbacks and stuff added to go up some of the areas, or is it pretty well defined by where the line lies right now?
Yeah, I'd say the alignments are pretty accurate at this point. Again, they've been ground truthed, and we have a pretty good sense of what's working and what would work, I should say. Yeah, I don't think they would deviate too much. If you look at some of the existing cart path alignments and the mode alignments that I was suggesting, there are a lot of instances where they go like directly perpendicular to what are called the contour lines, the topographic elevations. So if you look at the trail alignments that are being proposed, they're at a much lower angle relative to those lines. So what that means is the grades are less steep, so they'll be more sustainable, and they're just more usable for people in general. So they require less exertion, and they're likely a lot more safe in terms of the potential grades that they offer. So yeah, so I think they're pretty good, but as an iterative process, everything evolves a little bit. I mean, particularly the bike park area, which, like I said, would need consultants that really specialize in that type of work to make the final recommendations for that.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation.
Great, yeah.
Great info.
Thanks, everybody.
The next thing we're on our agenda tonight is the Penfield Recs update, and I'll turn it over to Andrew for that.
Yeah. So really, I just wanted to highlight that we've got our 2025 summer camp registration that begins on March 3rd at 10 a.m. I know we've talked about this at previous meetings, but we've heard a lot of positive support for moving it from what it used to be back in previous years, opening our registration in December at midnight. We've updated that to March 3rd at 10 a.m. A lot of positive stuff. Looking forward to that for residents only, but we highly recommend people go online before that day to make sure that they have their username and password correctly. If they have questions on how to use our website, feel free to reach out to the rec department. We can assist you, but please do that beforehand so March 3rd doesn't roll around and you have technical difficulties. And then we're also just working on our 2025 events and calendars, or concerts, excuse me. I know Independence Day, we're looking at some options for, with the weather we had last year for canceling our parade, putting a little more planning into that in terms of what are our options if we do see adverse weather coming in, to be a little bit more prepared, and we'll post all of that stuff on our website as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep. Next, other business. Currently, we have none, so we'll skip on to the next. Held items, action items, discussion with the town board. Andrew, do you have anything, any updates on that?
I don't think we have any updates. I know it's an ongoing thing, with the presentation tonight as Shadow Pines continues to have different projects and things going on, which is wonderful. I think we're kind of still at the phase of research and looking into all of those details on that. So that might be a held item that we can hold for a while, and we'll just look at the committee. It's not going off our radar by any means, but I think that's going to be a little bit as we see the projects progress.
And also the same thing with the renting and loaning equipment to held item.
I can
Still
give
working
an
on that?
update. I can give an update with that one. Currently, I know I've mentioned at previous meetings that we've worked with the Rochester Disc Golf. They've provided extra discs. We're planning on opening up renting this spring, where you reach out to the rec department and just have to sign some stuff to use it. So thank you for the Disc Golf Association. And we're also working with a pickleball company that is looking to host a tournament here in Penfield in the summer, and looking to purchase and order some paddles for us to be able to rent out to the community. So I think it's going to be a nice partnership that they can come in, promote the sport with the Shadow Pines courts opening up, and then giving back to the community with some, I believe it's 10 to 12 paddles that we'll be able to rent out hopefully this spring. So more information will come out, social media, rec website, but reach out at any point. We're hoping for the spring, just because we know that's when heavy users will go to those kind of sports.
Great, thank you. No old business, so we'll skip on to the next item. No new business currently. And Andrew, did we have any public feedback?
Yeah, I know that. I just want to mention again with the presentation tonight, everybody that's here, thank you to Adam, who's also not only presenting a long project for all the data that he's collected and input, but going to stay after to answer questions. But the information for the project will be put on our website, so please reach out after reviewing that. We're hoping to gather all of that feedback by the end of February, and that gives us a little bit of time to push that over to Adam. And then looking towards our Parks and Rec Advisory Committee in March, we'll bring that up as a discussion topic as well, just to go over some of that feedback and some of the discussions as we all kind of look at all of that great information that was presented. So some places that you can reach out. You can always stop in at the rec department if you want to talk to me. I'd love to see that and have those conversations, but you can always call the rec department, email the rec department, or reach out to the supervisor's office anytime for that feedback. So please check out the website. We're hopefully going to have the presentations up tomorrow, or at least by the end of the week. So check it out, provide your feedback, and just looking forward to those future discussions.
Great, thank you very much. Our next meeting will be March 11th at 6 p.m., same location. After that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.